You don't often hear judges use phrases like legal hell, but that really gives you a sense of the disruption we've seen in the crypto world lately.
Absolutely.
Today, we're doing a deep dive into something pretty significant, this restraining order that's been issued against Craig Wright.
Yeah, it's a big one. For a long time, the Bitcoin community has sort of been operating under this cloud of legal uncertainty. And a lot of that stemmed from, well, from his actions.
Right.
This new ruling from the British High Court.
Uh-huh.
It really aims to bring some clarity. Finally.
Exactly. So we're focusing on that restraining order. Our main source here is a Cointelegraph article that breaks down the judgment. And our mission really is to cut through the legal speak and figure out, what does this actually mean for Bitcoin developers, for the community, the whole crypto space.
Okay, so let's get straight to it then. The judge's ruling, we're talking about the British High Court, Judge Edward Mellor. He's issued what's called a general civil restraint order against Craig Wright.
Okay, a general civil restraint order. What does that, practically do?
Well, essentially, it's a legal block. It stops him from filing any more defamation lawsuits in the High Court related to these claims.
That sounds like a pretty decisive step.
It is.
And the Cointelegraph piece, it really highlights some very strong language from the judge. He said Wright sent enemies to legal hell.
Yes, he did.
And that his actions caused significant disruption to innovation. I mean, that's quite an indictment.
It really underscores the seriousness. This wasn't, something the judge did lightly. He clearly felt Wright's pattern of behavior justified this kind of strong measure to prevent, further abuse of the courts.
Okay, so what exactly was Wright doing that got us here? What led the judge to say enough is enough?
Well, the core of it, as you probably know, is Wright's constant claim that he is Satoshi Nakamoto, the creator of Bitcoin.
A claim the courts have now said is false.
Precisely. And the judge found Wright was using lawsuits really aggressively. He actually called it weaponizing legal systems.
Weaponizing legal systems, wow.
Yeah, to basically try and silence anyone who questioned his Satoshi claim. Intimidation, essentially.
And the article mentions these lawsuits weren't just aggressive, but often based on fabricated evidence, according to the judge.
That's the judge found, yes. It forced people into these incredibly expensive, drawn-out legal fights.
Like a David and Goliath scenario, but over and over.
Kind of. And the judge also highlighted something crucial. The money. Wright seemed to have significant financial backing right from the start, which led to what the judge called deliberately unequal battles. Individuals trying to defend themselves against these massive, well-funded legal teams. It created a real power imbalance.
That sounds incredibly stressful and unfair. The article talks about the personal toll, right, on people like Peter McCormack, the crypto blogger.
Yes, and Magnus Grenath Hodlonaut.
Hodlonaut, right. The judge apparently called what they went through 5 years of personal hell.
Exactly. Imagine 5 years of that pressure. Financial strain, the time commitment, the sheer stress. Just for speaking out about his claims. The judge seemed to view it as a calculated strategy, to try and force legitimacy onto a Satoshi claim by just legally exhausting anyone who disagreed.
Which is what COPA comes in, right? The Crypto Open Patent Alliance. Can you remind us who they are?
Sure. COPA is basically a nonprofit group. Their focus is on helping crypto innovation by getting rid of patent roadblocks, making sure patents aren't used to stifle development.
Okay.
They're the ones who brought this particular claim against Wright back in 2021.
And what were they trying to achieve specifically?
They wanted two main things. First, negative declarations, basically. A court ruling saying Wright doesn't own the Bitcoin intellectual property he claims.
Got it.
And second, injunctive relief, which is a court order to stop him doing something. In this case, stop him threatening or suing people over the Satoshi claims.
So COPA acted almost like a shield for the community to stop these attacks.
That was the idea. Their big concern, as Cointelegraph reported, was this serious chilling effect these threats were having.
Right.
People were getting scared. Scared to contribute, scared to innovate, scared to even discuss things openly for fear of ending up in one of these costly lawsuits.
And that ties back to the judge's point about wider consequences. Not just the individuals targeted, but significant disruption to innovation in an important technology industry. That's a broad impact.
It really is. It shows these weren't just personal disputes. They were seen as damaging the whole field. The fear of getting bogged down in pointless, expensive legal fights that can kill creativity anywhere.
Yeah, absolutely. The article also touches on previous rulings. Didn't the High Court already rule back in March that Wright wasn't Satoshi?
Yes, exactly. That ruling established he wasn't Satoshi, didn't write the white paper, Wasn't involved in creating Bitcoin. Pretty definitive.
And then didn't Wright himself put some kind of disclaimer on his website in July saying he wasn't Satoshi?
He did. Which, seems a bit contradictory given the ongoing legal fights at the time.
It does.
But those early rulings are key context. They laid the groundwork. The courts had already determined his core claim was false. This restraining order is sort of the consequence of him continuing to push that false claim legally.
Even after the court said no.
Right. And we shouldn't forget, he also got a 1-year suspended sentence for contempt of court back in December. So there's a pattern the court was looking at.
Okay. And the Cointelegraph piece mentions other big names he sued or tried to sue, like Vitalik Buterin.
Yes, the Ethereum co-founder. And Adam Back, another Bitcoin pioneer.
It's all part of what the article calls this almost decade-long Faketoshi saga.
It really has been a long-running saga, consuming a lot of energy and resources in the crypto space. Suing these high-profile figures, it just reinforces the judge's view about trying to silence critics and push the false narrative.
So if we boil it all down, what are the really key takeaways here? What does this restraining order actually change for the Bitcoin community?
Well, the biggest thing is probably the legal precedent.
Right.
It offers real protection now.
Protection for developers, individual.
Yeah, exactly. Protection against more legal harassment from Wright, specifically about his Satoshi claims. It's a signal from the court saying, we won't let the legal system be misused like this, especially based on claims we've already found to be false.
That must be a massive weight off many shoulders. It could really help reduce that chilling effect COPA talked about.
That's the hope, that the community can now, get back to focusing on building and innovating without this specific legal threat hanging over them constantly.
Yeah, allows people to breathe a bit.
Precisely. The whole point, as COPA argued, is to let the technology move forward without being dragged down by these kinds of disruptive and ultimately baseless legal fights. This ruling is a big step for that.
Okay, so bringing it all together from our deep dive into this Cointelegraph piece, the British High Court has put some serious legal handcuffs on Craig Wright. He's now blocked from filing more UK defamation suits about being Satoshi Nakamoto. And the hope is this will dial down that chilling effect his lawsuits have had on crypto innovation.
Definitely. And it leaves you with a broader thought to chew on, doesn't it? In these fast-moving tech fields, how do you strike that balance? You need to protect genuine intellectual property, of course. But how do you stop people using legal threats, maybe questionable ones, just to stifle competition or innovation?
That's a tricky line to walk.
It is. What are the long-term ripples from this case? Not just for crypto, but maybe for other new tech areas facing similar fights down the road. Something to think about.